So far, all of the graphs that we've looked at, histograms and also the dot plots, are for numerical variables. So what about categorical variables? There are three of the most popular ways to display categorical data are line graphs, bar graphs, and pie charts. So a bar graph shows a bar for each observed category. The height of the bar is proportional to the frequency of that category. So it sounds very, very close to a histogram, but what is the difference? And there is a major difference, and you always want to make sure you're using the correct graph. So even though they look alike, these are the differences. The first major difference is the order of the bars. In histogram, order matters because numbers must go in order. I can't just label my x-axis all out of order number-wise. But in bar graphs, order does not matter because categories don't have an order. Okay, so you can rearrange the order of your x-axis if you so choose. Another difference is the width of the bars. The width matters in a histogram, again, because it would change the numbers included, right? If you change that bin size, you're actually changing which numbers go in there. But in a bar graph, the width doesn't matter because you're not going to change a category just by making it have a wider bar that's associated with it. Probably the most telling way to tell them apart when you're looking at them is that histograms have no gaps between their bars. All values are included. Bar graphs have gaps between bars because there's no such thing as an observation between two different categories. So that is why it's so important when you're creating your histograms in Excel to change that gap to 0 because histograms truly do not have gaps in their bars. Bar graphs do. Okay, other types of graphs that we're going to look at for categorical variables. Another one is a line graph that's used to display similar types of data along a continuous set of lines between the data values for discrete data. It's typically used to show change over time. So that's kind of the key feature. Like, why would I want to use a line graph instead of a bar graph? A lot of it is if something is change over time. So it's kind of like stock market graphs. If you see those are line graphs because it's showing the change as time passes. And then the third type of graph for categorical data is a circle or a pie chart, sliced into several pieces, each representing a category for the variable. And the area of each slice is proportional to the relative frequency of this category. Now, some important things about pie graphs is that they are not typically used by statisticians or in scientific work. So if you are reading an actual scientific paper, you're probably not going to see a pie chart. Reasons are it can be hard to distinguish between slices of similar size. So if you have a 20% slice and a 25% slice and they're right next to each other, your eyes may not be able to see that difference. So if you don't have them labeled well, they can be very confusing. It can also be hard to read if there are too many categories. 5 or less is a typical rule. Once you get 6 or more categories, pie charts can again just start to be very busy and easy to read. One major pro of pie charts, though, is that they show parts of a whole. So they are nice if you want to visualize percentages out of 100. If you're not talking percentages, I would leave the pie charts out. Okay, so new data. This is also in your soccer goals. It's called soccer goals and push-ups. So this is the categorical data. It says, I recorded how many push-ups I was able to do for a week. This is fake data, but it's maybe slightly accurate. Notice the input variable is the day of the week, which is a category. So it's these input variables here that make it categorical. Yes, the output is numbers, but this is what's going along that x-axis. So since the days are categories, that's what changes what type of data this is. Okay, so we want to create a line graph, a bar graph, and a pie chart and say which one do we think best displays this data. Okay, so if we want to create a line graph, it says enter the categories in the first column. So that's check, that's already done here. And it says add a column for each data value associated because you can do multiple lines. So for us, we just have one data value here called push-ups. We could add more if we wanted to. Maybe I did pull-ups and sit-ups. So we could do more if we wanted to. But we just have push-ups right now. So we've got check 1, check 2. Highlight all the cells that contain the categories and the data values. So we want to highlight everything. Go to Insert. Then we have line or area charts. It might say either of those things. So go under there. And we just want a regular line, or you could do a line with markers if you want to. I like the line with markers better because I like to see those dots. So either line or line with markers is what I'm going to choose. And it creates a very nice graph. And this is kind of nice because it shows as time is going on, as the week progressed, how my push-ups fluctuated throughout the week. So clearly Saturday, I was at home with the kids. I did not do any push-ups that day. Let's go ahead and create a bar graph because it starts the same. We've got our data values. We want to highlight them. It's almost the same process. We want to highlight everything. Go to Insert, but we're going to choose the bar or the column. It might say column or bar chart. And I'm just going to pick the first choice because I like mine to go vertically, and also I don't want any 3D fancy schmancy stuff going on. You can pick a different style if you so choose, but this is the one we like, or I like. So notice again, there are gaps between all these bars and we want to leave them here this time because Wednesday and Thursday don't like share anything. They're two separate days. We want to see that space between them. Oops. And then the last way we want to look at is a pie chart. So it says to highlight the cells again. So start over, highlight these, go to Insert. There is a circle or a pie or donut chart, it might say. Again, there are different special kinds. I would just pick the regular 2D, make it simple. And let me drag this off to the side a little bit here maybe. Move these around if I can so we can see them all. Okay, so here are my push-ups. So what you can kind of see, again, a downside of the pie charts is initially when they're created, especially in Excel, they don't tell us those percentages. I have to actually hover over it, or I may need to format it, and I may need to give it, I can ask for those here. There's an option. So you can change them, you can get fancier with them, so you can scroll through your options up here, and you can get those percentages to show up. But notice a really, really big negative, I think, of the pie charts is that if you have a slice that is 0, it just doesn't show up at all. So unless I put the percentages on there, or even when I do, there's this weird 0% wedge that's very hard to tell what that's supposed to be then, even with the legend up here. It almost gets lost. Like a whole day of the week seems to get lost. And do I really care about what percentage of push-ups I did on the certain days, or do I care more just about the actual count of the push-ups? So the pie chart, again, it really doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're doing percentages on purpose and unless those percentages are meaningful. And again, if you have any sort of a data value that has a 0, you're going to lose that in a pie graph. So I don't really like that one. For which one displays it best, I would choose maybe either or, the line graph or the bar graph. I think they both do a great job. They both kind of show the fluctuation throughout the week. They both show nicely that Saturday did not have any. So I would say it's a toss-up. That would just kind of be your own personal preference. Now again, if you wanted to, we could add something like pull-ups right here. And I can't do very many pull-ups. I might be able to do 2 or 3 or 1. I'm not doing very many. Again, this is just totally made up data. Probably, if I don't do any push-ups, I'm also not doing pull-ups, and maybe I did 2. Really not very good at those. But what I could do now, if I wanted to, I just want to show you how this looks. If I copied all of this data, and I'm going to just do one of those original 2. So maybe I do a bar graph with those 2. Notice now it puts them side by side. Okay, so on Monday, I can see both my push-ups and my pull-ups, and I can see them next to each other. The same thing can be done with a line graph. So I would choose probably one of the first 2, either the bar graph or the line graph. Those seem to show this information a little bit better. And then let's go back to our note sheet. So you can write here whatever you think is best and why. And then my note is just that getting too fancy with your graphs can have the opposite effect, right? We've talked about how the 3D bars can be difficult to distinguish where the top is. Flashy colors can be distracting. Pie charts, while sort of pretty, don't make a lot of sense in a lot of cases. So just always try to be mindful of the information that you're trying to get across and go for clarity over fanciness and over, you want it to be pretty in a sense that easy to understand and easy to read, but don't go for flashy or fancy over just being able to understand.